Welcome to Al and the High. Two friends talking crypto and sports. Let's get it.
Brady throws, end zone. He's got Evans for the touchdown. Brady goes for the deep shot. Touchdown. Scotty Miller. Oh, my God.
CP, another look at that logo three by Lebron. I mean, that was legit. And he makes it look so easy.
Yeah, this logo's
Time. Start looking to go now.
trying to get it in the fridge. LeBron, tough shot. Nothing too tough for the King tonight.
Wade is going to Bryant. Artest looking, gives it to Bryant. Bryant dribbling, has to put it up with the buzzer. Banks it in!
Get it into Kobe. Now, the Lakers for the win. Kobe going up over Bell. Fall away. Yes! Yes! At the buzzer, he does it! Was there ever a...
In the final seconds, but let's see what they do.
Bob Gasol trying to find Kobe. And Kobe will get it for the win.
Bryant on the drive. Kicks it in the final. Back out Bryant. Shot clock at 7. Bryant leads, falling away. Puts it in. And the Lakers take a 1-point lead with 7.3 remaining. On a clutch shot.
Kobe going up for the lead. Yes!
That means the game. You get to stop here, you get yourself a victory.
He is going to be guarded by Rudy Gay, not O.J. Mayo. He's got the kick, he's got the pop, the three. Yes!
Get the ball and go. Wait, make sure you get the last shot.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Al and the Hot Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be diving into some sports. First, let's jump into NFC Championship game that went down this last weekend. Tampa Bay, how you called it, beat the Packers 31-26. You almost called the score. You're 2 points off.
Yeah, it was close.
Um,
Close. Yeah, it's funny because I remember, not necessarily funny, but I remember seeing that series where Rodgers came off the field and he looked, I think it was his middle linebacker, and he was like, we need to stop right now.
yeah,
Well, they proceeded to stop them on the next 3 drives.
right.
And something about Tom Brady, man. It's something about Tom Brady, especially like the cold weather. It didn't matter. He threw 3 picks or whatever the case may be, but it didn't matter. The defense is stout.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. The defense, they showed up again against Green Bay. They kind of late in the season. Obviously, they played well against New Orleans, but later in the season, they were kind of struggling a little bit. But yeah, they played well both times this year against the Pack. Aaron Rodgers struggled, wasn't on point. I did notice a lot during the game they were doubling Devontae Adams.
Yeah, they were doubling him, and they were able to get pressure on him with 4 down linemen.
Which is
They
key.
were collapsing that. They were collapsing that pocket over and over. I completely forgot that Tampa had Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah,
Like, my goodness.
they got
Like,
Ndamukong
their front
Suh,
four.
Shaq Barrett. Yeah, they got some Jason Pierre-Paul.
JPP. It's my
No,
goodness.
their
And they
front
got after
seven.
his ass.
Their front seven is arguably, if you just look at all the 7 spots, arguably one of the better ones in the league. And
Yeah.
so,
And they might get the safeties back by the time the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't know. I don't know necessarily the injuries, but 2 weeks is.
yeah,
Antonio Brown might be back.
and it's the Super Bowl, so Terrell Owens playing on a broken leg, and you're gonna go out all out on that. But yeah, they Tampa jumped out early. Brady had a couple big throws. He hit Evans.
Evans had a drop. Yeah, had the first touchdown. Yeah, and then could have had something else. I think Evans had a drop. I can't remember exactly what the play was, but it was a huge play. Would have been a huge play.
And really, when you look at it, the touchdown to, gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Their slot receiver, little number 10, Miller, I think's his name.
Yeah. Right
before the half, man.
right past the safety. My goodness. And a single high.
Yeah, and so they're in a single high cover one. You see, like again watching like just people break it down, and they were in a tight split. They had like the bunch set, which kind of gave them a little bit of an advantage. But as a corner, you have to know there's like 7 seconds left in the game.
Yeah.
Like, why are you getting beat? Like it just boggles
Back
me.
your ass up.
I mean, you look at it, 31-26, that touchdown right before halftime is the difference there. And that's to say, obviously, things don't change during the game in the second half, but that touchdown was huge for them right before the half.
I would say this. Green Bay had opportunity. Right. Aaron Rodgers got on the field there, and Tampa's defense stepped up. Point blank.
3 drives in a row got picks. I think I saw a stat during the game. He had like in his last, I think it was like 3 of his last 4 throws were picks, and something like before that, like
it was like, a lot.
It was a ton of games that he hadn't even won. It
was a lot. But Aaron Rodgers, for whatever reason, doesn't play well against Tampa Bay for whatever reason, because he threw the most picks against them than I think he threw all year, or whatever the case may be.
No, he did. But yeah, it kind of goes back to that. They end up drafting Jordan Love in the second round, and it's like, could you have gotten another piece? Could you have gotten some more help for Devontae Adams? Because when you look at it, they doubled him, and Aaron struggled. I mean, he had that one touchdown in the first half.
Couldn't run the ball.
Scantling. Yeah, couldn't run the ball. Yeah. And that touchdown to Scantling up the sideline in that cover two hole, it was a great ball, and it just kind of fell into his hands. But other than that, they could not get open consistently for him. And you were just seeing it across the board. They couldn't run the ball consistently. Yeah. And you have those 2 linebackers
by the winner was a theme last weekend.
And those 2 linebackers, when they're healthy, they're a problem.
Flying around, and they bang.
It's kind of funny. We talked about it, during the game. We talk about it all the time about that rail concept that everybody and their mother runs.
Jeez Louise, man.
And honestly, like for people that don't know, it's just a play that I stole it from. I went to a clinic at USC and we took it, and we ran it at Canyon. And you see it everywhere in the NFL, and it's
in college
football everywhere, and you see it more in the NFL, but you see the different looks and the different ways they get to it, motions and shifts, and then
dressing the pig.
And I think it was 2 of Green Bay's touchdowns they ran rail.
Yeah,
and I remember texting
a big play that got a third down later. Yeah, we're going back and forth, and I'm just like, the safety just needs to commit. I'm just going to take that sitting at 12 yards, man to man, and just go get it. Like when you look at these plays, like the railroad, how many times are they going to fucking run railroad? And then when you look at KC, like how many times are they going to run all seam?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is not.
It's not science.
This is not. This is not complicated what they're doing out there. Like, granted, they got people out there that are just faster than everybody else.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like when you look at these plays, it's simple contact. The fact that they got railroad off that many times, and then I think it was the one that I actually, when we started, like, oh my, there it goes again. Like they scored the 2 touchdowns, and then on a third down or something like that, they ran it again, and dude was wide open.
Right. No, I think it was the third down, and then the touchdown. Like 3 plays later, I texted you, and then they ran it again later. But every team runs it. That's the crazy part. Like you sit there and see it. And like you said, it's not difficult. All these teams run the same type of concepts. It's just how they get to it formationally, how they can kind of make it look different, shifting, motioning to try to confuse the defense. And then
that counter off of it.
Yeah.
That'll hopefully get you the big play later on.
Right.
Or early, depending on what it is.
Tampa, headed to the Super Bowl. Really, the funny part is their first winning season. I think it's their first winning season. It was their first playoffs since the last time they were in the Super Bowl. And playing at home. Ran
the table all away games as a wild card.
Yeah, and you think about it, like Tom Brady going to the 10th Super Bowl in 20 years. Like it is, so you put that into perspective. He's been to the Super Bowl every other year essentially. So for 20 years, that is unbelievable. He's
goated.
Yeah.
What he did this year, leaving for a team, and I mean, I know they picked up other pieces now and people matured, but Tom Brady is the head of that, what they got going on, and for him to go there and then the first year they're in the Super Bowl. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
Go.
And honestly, like, and I'm, obviously I'm a 49er fan, so I'm a big, Joe Montana fan. And obviously, like, I wasn't old enough necessarily at the time to, I feel like I remember more of him with Kansas City for those couple of years, just because I was the age, I was a little bit older.
But I remember him with the Niners.
But being a 49er fan, like going watching videos and they show all the old films and stuff. So he's in my opinion, he's been the GOAT for a couple of years. I don't care. All those people talking about system in New England and all that kind of stuff. Like what people don't understand is every good quarterback is a system quarterback. Like they get into a system and they're doing really well. Typically what happens is you get stuck with the same people, or you're the same coach because you're winning. You may
especially back then, it was a lot easier for them to stay with the same team, and the free agency was different and all that kind of stuff.
Right, but you look at like all those quarterbacks, like Joe Montana, the West Coast offense, like Tom Brady. Like, you could say what you want, but he was with Josh McDaniels, Bill O'Brien. Like, it's kind of changed, but they were all kind of the same kind of stuff. And then you go to Tampa and you see earlier in the season they're struggling a little bit, and then you start seeing more stuff that Tom Brady is more comfortable with.
Using.
But yeah, he's 20 years, man. Like I said, GOAT status in my opinion.
It's the longevity. It's the fact that over that time they were interchanging pieces, like all around him. It was always, there was Wes Welker days, and then it was the Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez days, and
Randy Moss days.
You know what I'm saying? They cycled in Julian Edelman, and yes, they cycled through, you know what I'm saying? Troy Brown in the early days. They cycled through. It just didn't matter. If you put some competent players around him, then he'll take you. And if you put some good players around him, then.
And you look at what they did last season, and everybody knocking them like they didn't have the talent. Obviously, Gronk a little bit older, not doing what he's doing. Edelman older, and some of those guys didn't pan out. And you look at, like, again, system, whatever, but you look at what they did this year, and those receivers can't get separation up there. Like, they're having issues, and you see that system and what Tom knows and what he can check to, where he knows he's checking down. And it's kind of funny. You sit back and look at, I think it was a couple of the Super Bowls, like Shane Vereen, Valencia alum. He, I think he was like close to MVP one year. He had like 12 catches in one of the Super Bowls, and he knew, like, check it down. We'll get our shots. But it
elevates the play of everybody.
So
he
Tampa
elevates
on
the
way.
play of everyone. Yeah,
he definitely does. But so AFC Championship game, Chiefs and Bills. Obviously, we both flip-flopped on this. We decided to try to go with the upset there. And Chiefs win 38-24. And honestly, the offense clicked. Like, they looked really good. Tyreek Hill is a problem. He's kind of
major problem. He's playing a different speed than anybody else.
Way different speed. And it goes back to that whole, were they playing around with stuff towards the end of the year? Or towards mid-season to end of the year to see what would work and just kind of see what would be they could move forward on and watch film and be like, oh, that guy's open, so let's we could run that and do that sort of thing. And
because it reminds me of, I don't know if you remember this, we played Notre Dame back in the day, and we were watching their film, and they came out in so many different formations and all that kind of stuff, and they were just kind of we figured they were just checking, but it made us prepare for everything.
Right.
And it's to the point where they don't even need to dress the pig.
No.
They're tight end elite. Tyreek Hill with his speed is elite. The quarterback is elite. And them losing that left tackle could be huge.
Yeah, especially against Tampa with their pass rush. But yeah, you touched on it. They got the pieces. You got Edwards-Helaire, the tailback, the rookie at LSU was back. He had a good game.
And then Le'Veon,
which the funny thing is with Edwards-Helaire there at Le'Veon, it was like non-existent.
I know.
So and they do have a couple other receivers. Williams, the running back, ran hard.
And
I
I'll
think
say this
Harding or
about
Hardigan or something's that other receiver.
I was utterly shocked at how much man-to-man KC was playing, and Buffalo could not get separation.
I know they were sticky as
They-
hell, man. Like I think Tony
They
Romo
could
said that
not
multiple
get.
times.
They could not get separation. And you know, Diggs was, you know, he's supposed to be the man, right? You know,
Yeah,
you get yours. You man to man,
yeah.
challenging.
I mean, you were seeing a lot of Cole Beasley was getting a little bit of his, but you were seeing a lot of cover 2 man, which in reality, if you got dudes that can run a little bit underneath and stick with them, you could play underneath because you got over the top help. And so it's one of those like difficult, but yeah, you would expect Stephon Diggs to be able to get a little bit open, but you kind of saw, and you mentioned it, Josh Allen just kind of reminds you of a younger Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
He doesn't really move around in the pocket. He kind of just stands there, and then when he does try to move, he's running. Like he's not buying time.
Yeah.
And you could tell he still has a lot of time to mature. The Chiefs' D-line was getting pressure. Chris Jones, again, same thing earlier in the year when they played, but Chris Jones at D-tackle was just manhandling everybody inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think there was a play where Allen literally he took the snap and stood flat-footed for at least 2 seconds or 2.5 seconds. Just stood there.
Yep.
No, you know what I'm saying? Not on toes and nothing.
Nope.
And then he decided to roll a little bit. Like that's when I was like, so that's when I tested you. I was like, he reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, and he's big too. He's just as big as Ben was back then.
He can run. The first time he took off, he was covering ground.
Yeah, no, he can move definitely. And
if they can get a running game to complement that,
and that's the thing, they had a running game. They had a running game the last couple of years with him. They kind of were obviously hiding him and running the shit out of the football. And then this year he's having a good year, and it's like all of a sudden the run game disappeared, and it goes back to, you know, you start throwing it a little bit more. You're not practicing the run game as much potentially, or you're not just honing it in, and because you don't need it as much. I don't know what it is, but obviously they need some dudes up front. They got to pick up some dudes in free agency. They need a running back. I think Frank Gore missing out there. You know, he wasn't the game breaker, but he'd get you your 4 to 5.
Yeah, he would.
And so I think that definitely hurt. But yeah, I was really impressed with the Chiefs defense, like you said. Obviously, Chris Jones, Frank Clark can get pressure up front. But sticky. Like Tyrann Mathieu is always all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, the Honey Badger. And but he's everywhere. But yeah, you just have I was impressed, man. They were sticking around. And obviously same kind of thing. Stephon Diggs again, man. Like they needed more help. He couldn't do it on his own, which shocked me a little bit because he's I mean, killed everybody this year. And obviously you could see some of when they would show the replays, they show that all 11 cam and there were safeties over the top of him, and they're kind of helping out with him and just kind of he isn't going to beat us. If you guys are going to beat us, somebody else is.
Yeah.
And they just don't have the horses to do it, to keep up with KC. But yeah, so I mean,
the matchup
by the time week and a half, Tampa and the Chiefs, you know, we'll dive into that next week in a little bit more seriously. But I'm excited about that game.
Me too. How are they going to slow down Kelsey and Tyreek Hill?
Right.
They got to choose one, and because you can't double them both, obviously. Right. But then on the flip side, I mean, I really hope Antonio Brown plays, and I hope
they're full go.
I hope Mike Evans is in it, because he will be big for them. You know what I'm saying?
That's going to be
they're going to need him.
Right, and that's going to be the thing. Tampa has the guys. Like Tampa has Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Cameron Brate, Gronk, Leonard Fournette, Rojo in the backfield. Like they have the dudes where like if you can't take away one of them because the other dudes are going to kill you. So that's going to be interesting. Real quick, I just want to touch. I don't know if you saw Bruce Arians. It was after the Saints game. He made a comment about how they asked him something about Tom. No, and it was something about like, yeah, we're just kind of letting him be him and we're letting him coach. Unlike they didn't let him do that in New England. And I just remember, and I was kind of laughing because like here's Bruce Arians, who's like obviously, you know, he's been a successful coach. You know, gets them back to the Super Bowl, but like you make the comment of like, you know, we're letting him coach, you know, like they didn't do in New England. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, so what New England did was wrong? Like whether they let him, which they did let him coach. Let's be real here. Like he
I know.
had full
He
autonomy on
said
the
what
offense. But the motherfucker won 6 Super Bowls. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're trying to take shots at Bill Belichick and the way he's doing things? Like,
yeah.
In 20 years, they got to 9 Super Bowls and won 6 of them, and you're taking shots at him. I just, Bruce Arians is one of those dudes. I think he's a good coach. I think he's hella arrogant. And really, unless he's got a really good quarterback, he ain't done shit. Because, you look at some of the guys he's had. He had Kurt Warner there in Arizona when they went to the Super Bowl. He had Peyton Manning before that in Indy, and then he essentially goes to Tampa and he has Jameis, who is throwing 30 picks a season. Then he gets Tom Brady and it's fine. So it's and granted, you obviously good quarterbacks make a difference.
Yeah.
Don't sit here and talk trash to somebody who's got 6 rings. Like it just boggles my mind. But just thought I'd get that in there real quick. But let's dive over to the head coaching searches.
A couple more got
So as far as I can see, so Atlanta hired Arthur Smith, who's the offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans the last couple of years. It's going to be interesting because you got Matt Ryan getting a little bit older. Are they going to try to run the ball a little bit more? Kind of.
And then what happened to Julio? Was he just hurt?
I think he was just hurt. Honestly, the last couple of years, I haven't looked into it much, but he's been in and out of the lineup. He hasn't been able to stay healthy.
31.
So we'll see what they do there. The Jets, obviously, we talked about last week, hiring Robert Saleh, who was the DC at the 49ers. It'll be, again, depending on what they do with that second pick. That'll be definitely interesting. See what goes on there. The Chargers hired Brandon Staley, who was the defensive coordinator of the Rams.
And
then the funny thing is,
they picked up an offensive coordinator for somebody from somewhere.
Yeah, I can't think
from somewhere.
Yeah, I can't remember. I remember seeing that too. But it's kind of funny.
He said he was going to build it around Justin Herbert,
right?
Which
you have
Smart.
to. He's obviously a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I was thinking about they hire him from the Rams, which is convenient for him. Shit, dude doesn't even have to move.
I know.
You kind of sit there and think about the Rams obviously have a really good defense. They got Aaron Donald. They got Jalen Ramsey. They're doing some things, and I'm like, well, it's easy to have a good defense when you got dudes. Then all of a sudden, I was like, oh wait, the Chargers have some dudes. you got the Bosa brother. You got Melvin Ingram. I think they got to resign. You got that linebacker Kenneth Murray. Derwin James should be back healthy. They got a couple more. So defensively, they should be fine. So I like the hire, and like I said before, as long as you hire a offensive dude that's good, it doesn't matter if you're a defensive guy as a head coach.
Yeah.
And then Detroit,
it goes the same way the other way as well.
Yeah, definitely. So Detroit, the Lions hired Dan Campbell, who was the assistant head coach and the tight end coach for the Saints.
Stafford is out.
Yeah, Stafford
soon will be.
They're agreeing to part ways, so they're looking for a trade. The hard part about that is we talked about that with the NBA. It's like, okay, well, now we can shortchange you. You're not going to get if people were trying to offer stuff, I feel like you're not going to get stuff.
That's why it'll go in the draft.
Round. Yeah, it'll be a draft day trade probably.
Yep,
I can see that. But and then the Eagles hired Nick Sirianni. I don't know if I'm probably butchering his last name, but he's the Indianapolis Colts OC, which is kind of interesting. And you don't really think about it, but I touched on before Frank Reich, who's the head coach of the Colts, when he was the OC under Peterson for the Eagles, was when they drafted Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz had that MVP caliber season until he tore his ACL. And so it kind of makes sense when you sit and look at it. Obviously he's probably going to bring that same system that Frank Reich runs. And so it'll be something that Carson Wentz is comfortable with. So whether he's going to be a good coach or not, I don't know, but the hire makes sense to me in that way. If you're going to bank on Carson Wentz. This is your
what? But how much longer do you give Carson Wentz? So he just signed that contract, right?
Shoot. I mean,
did he?
After this year, I think you're done with him. At that point, I think he's like, this year's the hard hit on the cap if he was like the dead cap.
Really?
But it goes down a little bit next year. So I think it's one of those that you have to give him this year. see how he kind of progressive. If it starts off a little slow because the system's back, changed a little bit, whether you know it or not, it takes you a little time to get back used to it.
I worry about Jalen Hurts regressing.
I agree. Yeah.
Younger, cheaper,
and
mobile.
That's the way.
He hasn't been hurt. I don't think he's been hurt in college.
Nope.
So
he's a big kid.
Carson can't get through a season.
Yeah. So that'll be. The interesting thing about that is that's kind of the way the NFL's going nowadays. You're seeing a lot of the teams with the quarterbacks on rookie contracts, and putting that money elsewhere to build the team out and make a run. So
it's going to be interesting to see what the Cowboys do with Dak.
Yeah, and who knows? It's one of those. They got a good draft pick. If they could steal one of those, Wilson from BYU or Mac Jones, or I could see Jerry Jones.
Do they go after Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, money wise though, I would rather go after Dak. Like to me, I like Matthew Stafford. Obviously, I think he gets a lot of. He's underrated in Detroit, and he's had awful.
But they should have paid Dak before they paid anybody else.
Yeah, they screwed up. They should have never. They re-signed Zeke with 2 years left on his deal. Should have never done that. Like, you want to go sit in
running back
later, dude.
A running back.
Yeah, but I think Jerry's stuck in that big three. Yeah, look what he did. He signed the running back, signed the receiver, and he's trying to shortchange the quarterback a little bit. Which, to be honest with you, if you look at those teams in the 90s. Who would you consider the worst of those three? Was probably Aikman, as much as he was the guy pulling the trigger. But Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin were the big dudes. But
see, you take for granted the consistency of having a quarterback like that.
Oh, that's my point. Is Jerry Jones is looking at it that way? Like, he's looking at the consistent. That like Troy Aikman was, like Dak's pretty consistent, and he's not considered elite, not considered all that, so he's trying to shortchange him on money, and Dak's trying to get his, and I don't blame Dak whatsoever. Like, get your money.
Either. Never do,
especially in the NFL when contracts aren't fully guaranteed,
and they'll cut you whenever they want.
Right. So that's yeah. Again, the NFC East, man, it's gonna be a fun off season for that. But yeah, so the only job that then the Jaguars hired Urban Meyer, which we touched on. But the Texans have not hired anybody yet.
Oh, no, they're waiting on Bieniemy, and I think the DC from the Colts. No, not the Colts, from Tampa, maybe. I think they're waiting on the guys playing in this game.
Boyle, Todd Bowles, yeah. And so that's the thing. You have to think that they're trying to bring in Bieniemy. If you go to, for anybody asking, you could go to like NFL.com, and actually you could just search like NFL head coaching changes, and it literally shows like all the teams that hired. It shows who they interviewed, and so it like literally shows the list, shows GMs and all that stuff. So I mean, Bieniemy interviewed for everybody. So, but that goes back to either one, he's doing it because he's being asked to. And so he's being kind of that good soldier instead of being, you obviously don't want to burn bridges. Interviewing only helps because it essentially gets you out, and you need and you get practice at it and everything like that. Or he's just a bad interview. And maybe teams are trying to move on and just get their coach in and start and do that. But you have to think if Bieniemy's that good, you're going to wait. Right. But you have to think if he's that good, you're going to wait for him.
Yeah. But, that's why, Houston is waiting. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. The interesting thing is I almost think that's a last-ditch ploy for them to see if Deshaun will stay, which he's already said that's not going to make a difference.
He said that out. No, it's not going to make a difference.
I saw something. It was like top two choices were like the Dolphins and the Jets, I think.
The Jets. And the Jets are number one.
Which you know what? Like, good for Houston, because if you really think about it, they're if they go to the Jets, they're going to get the number 2 pick and probably Sam Darnold with it, plus other shit. And then if he goes to Miami, you're going to get like the number 3 pick, I think it is, or I think it's a top 5 pick, and you're going to get Tua out of that. So Houston, you're in a bad situation, but you're going to get a boatload
quarterback and a good pick,
right?
Yeah,
so,
and multiple picks actually.
But yeah,
but I think one of his former coordinators or something like that is with the Jets, and that's why he wants to go there.
Yeah,
that's why it's number 1.
Yeah, But yeah, it's again though, Bieniemy, like you just kind of touch on it. It's kind of that interesting. Like you would think some of those teams, like the Chargers, that would have been a really good spot. You know, you got Justin Herbert, you know, balling. You think put him with Bieniemy, but you know, who knows, man? Like I said, you never know, and we'll never know behind the scenes what's going on.
Yep.
With that, but yeah, that kind of. I mean, it's kind of sad, but the NFL season, football season is pretty much over, man.
Yeah, that sucks. We need an alternative.
Yeah, definitely sucks. Obviously,
well, hoops is here, but
yeah, but it's not the same for us. We know that, and
yeah,
really,
yeah,
as the NFL is so popular in the country that it definitely needs some type of alternative or something. But yeah, so let's go to NBA. We'll just touch on a couple things. LeBron goes for 46 the other night in Cleveland.
Yeah,
looking like he's 26.
Yeah,
it's kind of
maybe a little motivated.
Maybe a little. You know, kind of incredible if you really think about it. The age he's at, you know, the physical condition he's at. He's obviously
and not slowing down at all.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing a little things here and there, but it's.
But when he wants to turn it on,
yeah,
like when
he's learning how to
choose to turn it on.
Right. He's learned how to save energy and do that kind of stuff. But it's just kind of incredible when you really think about it, like the things that he's able to do. And that's the funny thing is I'm sitting here like, yeah, he's lost maybe a step or half a step or whatever, and he's still the best overall player in the league. Like it's not even close when you just look at overall.
Just how he affects the game.
Right.
Like the force of nature in terms of a basketball game that he has over it. You know, it's unmatched. He's another one. Like Brady's been to how many championships in the last 20 or 10 in the last 20? This will be his 10th. Well, what's LeBron at right now over his 17 years?
Shoot,
you know,
I don't even know
how many championships has he been to.
Shit, it was like 10 in a row that he went to,
that's what I'm saying.
Until he got hurt. So, but yeah, and then that's the crazy part too. Is you think obviously the NBA isn't as physically. I wouldn't say physically demanding. It's just not the physical pounding that you get from football. But he's been healthy, like knock on wood. Like other than that injury he had, that groin injury he had a couple years ago with that first year with the Lakers, he's been incredibly healthy. And obviously it goes to like he takes care of his bodies and like
extremely well
shape. And so
works
out constantly. So obviously that goes to it. But you think about it, like at some point with how physical he plays, you would have thought over the years that he would have been, you know, missed half a season and then going to the finals every year, doing the Olympics, doing, you know, doing all this stuff.
Yeah,
like
he's not playing the 82 games or 81 games, whatever it used to be, and calling it out. Like he's up into the hundreds.
Right.
Like 10 years straight. And every 4 years the Olympics and Olympic trial teams, and it's unbelievable, man. The mileage. What is the mileage?
And that's always the knock on everybody talking about Kawhi doing his thing, taking games off, and it's like, you know, that's where you get these old hats freaking talking crap about it, because it's like, what do you mean, like taking days off? Like,
Karl Malone got on Zion and was like, dude is 20 years old. How is he not playing 40 minutes a game?
Yeah, but
like you don't get to.
I saw that in Karl Malone. Like, I mean, obviously great player, but Karl Malone, like somebody like fact checked that, and he was playing like a minute more than Zion was at this time in his career. So like, it you know, he's talking shit and doing his thing. Like I feel like all the old dudes do that, but when you sit there, the Kawhi too. But the Kawhi thing to me is more of like he, you know, and obviously San Antonio started that, so he built that and started doing that shit, and it worked for him in Toronto. So it's like, why not do it some other time? But it just bothers me. Like if that's my team, like I'm not happy about it.
Well, I heard the players weren't happy about it.
Yeah,
it's a preferential treatment.
Yep, they were controlling shit and doing all whatever, and there was issues with it. But yeah, Brooklyn. So they get Kyrie back. They lose 2 in a row to Cleveland, and then they actually beat the Heat 2 in a row.
I read that Harden, like I think it's going to be Harden the one that's going to sacrifice.
Facilitate.
I read it. I read an article where he basically said I was ball dominant and read through all the little stuff he did for 8 years, in Houston, and I'm at the point now where I'm willing to do whatever. So what I think he's going to do, like this
Change
last
his game
game
a
that
little
he I think he took 10 total shots.
Yeah,
But he closed the game. I think in the fourth quarter, he scored like 10 points, had like 4 assists. You know what I'm saying? I think he's going to allow those cats to go out and kill. Yeah, go get it. And then in the fourth quarter, it's going to be pick and roll with me.
Yes.
I'll take it if I have it.
Pound it with Jerome Bettis, man. He's literally taking that 4-minute offense to basketball.
Yeah.
But he, you know, we touched on this, like him obviously knowing that offense. Steve Nash.
Great analogy right there, man. That's a great analogy right there.
Steve, I take it from your quote, man. But yeah, touched on Steve Nash being the head coach and D'Antoni obviously being like the assistant coach or the number 1 assistant or whatever. And like Harden playing with D'Antoni, like he knows the system, and you're seeing it in the numbers. Like you said, he's not taking as many shots, not being as ball dominant, but he's leading the team in assists. You know, so he's definitely taken that lead as far as, you know, making sure everybody's, you know, the offense is being run and distributing and all that kind of thing. The Heat haven't been playing well this year, and it's still going to be interesting to see how Kyrie
plays defense.
Goes. Yeah,
they got to play defense.
Well, and even when they beat the Heat last night, and it was like both of them were under 100. Like they were, like I saw Kevin Durant was like 30%. Like they were just really inefficient. But the game before that, the 2 Cleveland games and then the first Heat game, they were all in the above 120, like both teams. So they're not playing any defense.
You know what the best defensive team in the NBA is, right?
Lakers.
Yes. That's problematic.
Well,
for everybody else.
Last year they were top 5 efficiency. So and that's the thing is
you can bring your defense no matter what your offense is doing. You can bring your defense.
Right. And that's the thing with AD, and you have the guards that just are like feisty, man. Like they're not the biggest dudes, but like KCP's constantly causing like just really reminds me of, you know, you always say like that Patrick Beverly, that one game against Golden State when he was bothering KD, and KD made the comment, he's like, he's just like a gnat, like he doesn't go away. And it's kind of reminds me of like Caruso and KCP and the guards that the Lakers have. And then and you could kind of play that way when you have rim protection. So you could be up, you could be aggressive because ultimately, you know, you're putting it down there, and there's AD and Gasol's down there, you know, and Trez isn't a bad defender.
Player of the year.
Yeah. And
2 defensive player of the year sitting back there. Yeah, take your chances, man. Make plays, get in transition and run.
Yeah, definitely. So it's gonna be a fun season to watch. Obviously, both of us will probably be a little bit more in tune with what's going on with basketball once football season's over. But it's already, I mean, like I said, Brooklyn right now is in 3rd in the East behind Philly and Boston. But ultimately, once playoff time rolls around, like it's anybody's game, you know. So it's not like it's going to be
neutral sites.
Yeah, it's not like it's
something drastic changes. Everything's a neutral site. Yeah, let's see.
Even if that, like basketball is one of those, like you said, like defense can carry anywhere. All you got to do is win one, and it's even, you know. So it's going to be a fun season to watch, though. But let's touch on. So today we're obviously recording this. It's January 26th. It's the year anniversary of Kobe's death, Kobe and Gianna. And obviously the other, what was it, 9 people on the helicopter.
Right. Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to play a quick one of my favorite like Kobe interviews, I guess, back in the day.
I'm a mentality,
baby.
Still waiting for a big smile out of you. You're up 2-0. What's the story? Are you not happy, or you're only half happy, or?
Still to be happy about.
You're up 2-0.
Job's not finished. Job finished? I don't think so.
And honestly, like that's one of those, that's where Laker fans, and I don't think people really understand, like obviously Kobe was loved by everybody and all that, but as a Laker fan, like you lived and died with Kobe. Like I remember watching it, but it was because of that mentality, because he was never happy. He was never satisfied. And so I feel like as a fan, you felt that way too. So it was like you were never, so remember just like you watch Laker games, and obviously when he was there were years where they were down, but you just watch Laker games, and I remember like celebrating Kobe, and then like fuck Kobe, like what are you doing?
Mhm.
Like it was that again, just that mentality of like you knew you were gonna live and die with Kobe, and
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
of the time he would come out on top of it and all that.
I
But
knew watching it, and I knew he was going to take his shots. I knew he was going to do his thing, but I knew that he put in the work to earn the last shot over probably anybody in the league.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? He put in that type of work. So
Right.
yeah, I was always willing, even if it was the pivot 3 times, triple pump fake, and put it up, I would still be like, he
Right.
probably practiced that shit.
Yeah.
He was
He-
probably in the gym and did that shit about 500 times.
Right. And he honestly, I think I touched on before, but he was like by far like one of the best like tough shot shooters. And a lot of times he
Oh
did it to
my
himself.
goodness.
But
Yeah.
I mean, and it's kind of crazy. Like you sit there and you watch, they have those videos of him out where they like sync it together with Michael. And they're
Yeah,
like
with
doing the
Jordan.
same moves and doing all that. And
Yeah, the
can just
ball is
see-
falling through the rim at the same way.
Yeah.
Like
you
it,
could
like
just-
everything.
Yeah, he mirrored it, and obviously, there's only one Jordan, there's only one Kobe, but it's kind of crazy. They both started their career, both hella athletic. Not obviously Kobe's was always the better shooter,
Mm-hmm.
but both hella athletic, both good on defensive side. And then as their career got older, we've touched on like people changing their game. They
Yeah.
both developed that post game, like
Mm-hmm.
working hella hard at it, became like unstoppable in the post.
Yeah,
I mean, to
running
the
that
point-
triangle.
Yeah, and Kobe, I feel like was more of probably the generation was different, obviously, but he was more of like he would reach out to MJ. I remember him,
Mhm.
working
Rookie
with
year.
Hakeem Olajuwon on
Mhm.
post stuff, and he was just always trying to work on his game. But yeah, man, it like honestly, like last year that I didn't think about it. Like he's probably out of any celebrity or anything like that one hit me hard, and I think it's just
Yeah.
you grow. That's all I knew. Like as a Laker fan,
Yeah.
really. Like I mean, Magic. Like I said, growing up, you
Yeah,
know,
he was a little
he
early for you.
Yeah,
I
so
remember all that shit. But
right.
yeah, Kobe was a big one, man. Kobe
For
was a
20
big
years.
one because he put in work. He put in major work. I honestly didn't even believe it. I forgot what it
know.
was. It was just like the TMZ, I think, put out
Yeah,
that Kobe
TMZ
had
posted it.
died or something. And I was just like, man, that's fucked up. Like, why would they put something out like that? That's not funny.
Well,
You
you
know
see
what I'm
all that
saying?
stuff
And then-
online, and then it's like, oh, it's fake. So
Yeah.
I was the same way.
Yeah.
You see it, and then you're like, let me check this, and you start searching it, and you're like, what the hell? But yeah,
Yeah,
that-
what?
crazy, man. But at his career too, really think about it, like the whole, I guess the bounce back. I don't know what else to call it, but like from the hatred he got from that whole, like younger in his career, obviously, but the whole Colorado situation.
Mm-hmm.
And just the quick turnaround. I don't even know how to explain it, from being like the most hated person ever to like
Yeah.
being just beloved, like and to be at that point, it's crazy. Like that doesn't happen very often. Like most people, they do stuff or whatever, and or whatever happens within their career, and they kind of live that role, and it never
Mhm.
really changes, and that's always brought up. And I feel like with Kobe, he's one of those, like that's obviously there's people that bring it up, but I feel like there's a lot of people that
Right.
it's not even brought like a thought.
An issue.
Like when you talk about
Yeah.
Kobe, that's not like, I would say that's probably not one of the top 10 things you think about with Kobe, which is crazy to
No,
think
it's
about.
just But the thing is and this is the bad thing about being a star and all that kind of stuff is everybody fucks up. Everybody fucks up. Everybody, you know what I'm saying, has done things that they're not proud of or whatever the case may be. I'm not even saying, you know what I'm saying, that he did it or he didn't. I'm not even saying that the fact that obviously he had sex with the girl. And that's what I mean
Right.
by he fucked up.
Yeah.
So it ain't like people cheat. People do what they do. You know what I'm saying? So, but since he's in that limelight, and what I'm glad that happened was the media decided to drop it, because that's what happened. Because if
Yeah.
the media decided to, well, we're just going to go ahead and ride this cap for the next 15 years. Or if he pissed off whoever,
right?
You know what I'm saying, was running that stuff, they could have rode that shit for a minute.
Well,
but they didn't.
If you think about it, like whether you say smarter, I don't know if the smartest thing he did with that situation, I don't know if that's the right term to use during that situation, but was to come out and admit that they had consensual sex. Admit the wrong and admit, and Vanessa obviously sticking by him. Like, I mean, God bless her, man. Like, there's a lot of women that would not stick by that dude. Like, they would have dipped, took half his money, like, and been done with it. But
that's the best way to go about it. He just told the truth.
Just told the truth,
and that's the point. That's where he was at with it. Yeah,
and then it ends up,
but all that other stuff, nah.
Yeah, and it goes away. And the crazy thing is, it probably, if it would have happened 10 years later, say Kobe was born 10 years later, and with social media and everything else that's going on, who knows?
Different story. Yeah,
different story. But he was kind of it was before all that stuff really started popping off, and so he kind of missed. We always talk about like Michael Jordan, all the issues he had with gambling and all that kind of crap before. And he, you're not getting that 24/7. Yeah, 24/7.
They don't have videos of it.
Right.
Yeah. Running on Twitter all day long.
And Kobe, he missed that section of it. And so I think him, obviously admitting that what he did was wrong and having consensual sex, and and him and Vanessa, I honestly think Vanessa sticking with him helped people like move on, because it's like, if she can get over it, why can't you?
Yeah,
like
everybody. Yes,
like you have
she's
no
the only
room.
one that's really. Yeah, she's the only one that should be mad about this.
Yeah, and like it's nobody else's business. And so when you sit back and look at it, like, but it's kind of incredible when you really think about it, just the timing of his career. And yeah, I'm sure Staples Center, the Lakers will have a statue put up at some point. I don't know if the Lakers were planning on doing anything. I heard they were kind of maybe going to be a little quiet about it. Vanessa's come out and kind of doesn't want to,
which is very understandable.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, give her respect. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't. If she doesn't want to deal with it, she doesn't want to see the stuff with it and all that. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I think next month I heard like they're still like doing the investigation. So I think next month like it comes out. So it's still crazy to think like after a year, like all the investigations and all that stuff of, whether they should have been flying or what happened and whatever. It's supposed to be coming out next month, but
does it need to take that long?
No.
Like, I mean, really? But okay, all right.
Yeah, but who knows? But let's we'll end this sports one on that little somber note there with Kobe. But hope you all enjoyed the podcast. This is Alan.